YouTube can throttle us.
They can suppress us.
But they can't stop a text message.
Shadow government. Those are the words that sat in an FBI email hiding China intel from Trump. So stop right there. They didn't just miss it. FBI insiders walled it off from the sitting president and the public. Then MSNBC bailed the second Trump started naming the scam. And wait until you hear what those same files say about the machines. Yes, nearly 250,000 non-citizen voter rolls in 4 states alone. Read that again: California, New Jersey, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and DHS says 46 states still need review. And that hit me because this stops being a theory. The second your vote gets canceled by a dirty registration, a dead voter stays active, or a foreign actor exploits systems and our own intel. Said Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and non-state groups. They can compromise your vote. Adam Schiff, Mark Warner, and Gavin Newsom, they aren't protecting democracy here. They're protecting the cover-up that just got busted. In breaking now, near record tungsten prices are intensifying pressure on Washington to secure the critical mineral supply chain as the United States faces a tungsten national security priority across fighter jets, tanks, missiles, drones, and ammunition. There's been no U.S. commercial tungsten mining since 2015, and Project Vault includes a $12 billion strategic stockpile plus $30 billion domestic production, while the Pentagon directs millions towards restarting U.S. tungsten production. Vault Strategic Mining, trading as KNOX in Canada and KNXFF in the United States, is advancing historic tungsten assets in mining-friendly U.S. jurisdictions, including proven former mines in Nevada's Great Basin, a historically productive tungsten region. One project carried a defense-related exploration contract in the Second World War with approximately 10,000 feet drilled. A USGS estimate cites roughly 168,000 tons of tungsten oxide and $30 billion to $50 billion estimated in-ground value. Make sure you review the Next News Intel briefing that's been prepared for you. It's linked below. Now let's get back to it, because 10,000 suspicious or forged registration forms in Muskegon, Michigan triggered a years-long probe. And that's the detail they hope that you would glide past. We're not talking about one bad envelope. We're looking at a machinery problem, and when network executives called Trump's speech dangerous, they told on themselves. Now let's get into the receipts. Here is Mark Wayne Mullen confirming a newly released DHS report found nearly 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California and more.
250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in just 4 states. Mind you, we have 46 other states, and just 4 states, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California, and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada. We also worked with proactive states to identify 28,000 non-citizens on their voter rolls, plus 400,000 individuals that are still registered to vote that are deceased. Now, these
absolutely unbelievable and staggering figures from DHS. You heard the raw number. Now they turn the warning into a promise. If not, citizens voted illegally, they're coming after them.
Real ID does not prove citizenship and does not give you the right to vote. You must be a U.S. citizen and you must be eligible to vote. Before and after the election, we will scrub all election records looking for illegal aliens and those who are ineligible to vote, including those that somehow voted, yet they were deceased. If you're illegal and attempted to vote, or you tried to vote illegally for someone else, we will find you and we will charge you. Illegal voter registration and illegal voting both carry penalties up to 5 years in prison and up to $250,000 in fines. We will pursue maximum pressure on this. To let you know, we will be proactively looking at early voting, and then after post-election, we will continue to scrub all those that did vote. Those states that don't participate with us, They have public records of those that voted, which is where we found the 250,000 from the 4 states that don't participate with us. We will go through those records one by one, and we will pursue everybody. We will make sure that people know they can trust our elections.
Wow. DHS is getting involved. The scrub is happening before and after the election, but the rot goes deeper than voter rolls. Catherine Herridge lays out what was found inside FBI burn bags and what happened to the FBI whistleblower who tried to tell the truth. FBI burn bags discovered, and they never, some cases never before seen records, Russia collusion, Mar-a-Lago, CIA, referral on FBI, 2016 Hillary Clinton election activities, previously thought missing, retaliation against the whistleblower, and more.
So, Catherine, based on your reporting and the lead up to this, which was spot on and absolutely correct, you speak with whistleblowers, you speak with people inside the intelligence community all the time. What do you hear from them about how this needs to be fixed in order to solve these vulnerabilities that we're seeing?
I think one of the first steps has to be to address the retaliation that these whistleblowers have faced. And I know that it was pervasive and severe in one particular case. And that this individual really was kind of assassinated professionally because they stood up for the facts of what happened in the 2020 election, and that still has not been cleared up. I think there is a real frustration among the public that we keep hearing about these fouls, so to speak, and then nobody seems to be held accountable. Not to kind of change gears, but the other thing that really caught my attention was the president's discussion of these burn bags.
Yes.
This immediately took me to the burn bags that were discovered on the 9th floor of the FBI, where they found the records about Crossfire Hurricane. That was the original 2016 Russia collusion investigation. They found what was a CIA note. There's only a paper copy. It was from the CIA director to the FBI, and it had that intelligence about Hillary Clinton planning to paint Trump as a puppet of Russia. Okay, what he said is that those burn bags were supposed to be destroyed.
Yes. So for people who aren't familiar, what is a burn bag? Why would you need a burn bag?
I have lots at home.
I have lots just hanging around just in case I ever need to use them.
So a burn bag is used in classified facilities or sensitive security facilities, and they take documents, and rather than shred them, they put them in the bags to be burned so that they are ultimately destroyed. These bags were discovered at FBI headquarters. One was in a closet next to the director's office with some of the most important documents about the Russia collusion investigations. Yeah. And I was struck when the president said, we know now that they were supposed to be destroyed and there was some kind of mistake. And he said that the ODNI, the top intelligence official, FBI, and CIA, they will investigate that.
So much more to come, it seems, including...
So the burn bags point to documents that were never supposed to see daylight. Next, President Trump says one FBI official openly called it a shadow government, hiding China election intel from him and the American people. Here's one clip from last night's bombshell address.
Say reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found bags that were used to destroy information given.
So if that wasn't enough, Trump says hiding China was just the start. In the next clip, he goes straight at voting machines and ballot systems the government knew were exposed. Here's more from that address last night.
Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised.
So Trump laying out the vulnerability case in blunt terms. Now CIA Director John Ratcliffe backs the release, pointing to declassified reporting on Venezuela and China. He posted this: to support President Trump's transparency initiative, CIA has taken significant steps, including providing declassified documents for public release. Protecting our democracy and the integrity of our elections from foreign influence and interference remains paramount. This is why we produce key intelligence reporting showing that Venezuela's government had developed capabilities to manipulate electronic voting systems, raising serious concerns for U.S. election infrastructure security. I've long publicly highlighted China's nefarious efforts to influence the 2020 election against President Trump, as evidenced by my dissent to the flawed January 2021 intelligence community assessment. The documents declassified today shed further light on China's intentions. These matters deserve public scrutiny to ensure our democracy's foundation, the security and public confidence in our elections, is unassailable. So he says the public deserves to see the documents for themselves. The problem is the corporate press didn't want viewers hearing any of it. Watch MSNBC cut away and instantly run interference. Check this out.
The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that
President
our
Donald
government
Trump
has
deliver a speech to the country where you heard him portray an intelligence community that he is portraying as hiding information from him. There is no evidence of that.
And of course, that's Jen Psaki. She looks like a deer in headlights right there because she was part of the cover-up. She was inside the administration when all this was going down during the Biden years. Or if not, she was tangentially related because of the connection she has to the Democrat machine. But right there, she looks like a deer in headlights. MSNBC couldn't even let the full argument air before the spin machine kicked in. Now Senator Mark Warner's melting down that networks carried Trump's address at all.
And a matter of fact, before I start, I just as an American, not as an elected official. I was embarrassed that the President of the United States went before our whole country, and networks like yours carried this as news, as opposed to a rehash of falsehoods. And it is incumbent upon you and any responsible journalist to push back on these falsehoods. I've been either chairman or vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee for the last decade.
If I may, on that point, since you raised it.
If I may just finish, sir. If I may, sir, finish, sir. If we don't call into question these falsehoods, this president is he's going to lose a free and fair election. And unless responsible journalists and the American people step up and say, our system, which has stood the test of time, is not going to be undermined by this kind of falsehoods, then, we all will have to live with those responsibilities.
Absolutely shameful. The president releases intelligence direct from the CIA, and Senator Mark Warner is just melting down. He wants the press to push back instead of let Americans hear the case. Adam Schiff jumps in next with the usual script: fear, denial, and another attack on Trump. What the president presented was not a leveling with the American people. It was a renewed attempt to inject fear and cloud reality ahead of the next election in November and provide pretext for seizing voter data, discrediting and interfering with election results. By now, it should be obvious that Trump intends to repeat this playbook from 2020 and attempt to deny any result he does not like. And tonight was another attempt by him to avoid accountability and defeat in November. Yeah, he says this is all about sowing doubt. Meanwhile, Republicans are answering with action. The next clip pushes the Save America Act and says election integrity is an American issue. Here's more from President Trump last night.
Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided.
So that wasn't just one group talking point. Next, J.D. Vance echoes the same demand: unite behind the Save America Act and lock this down. He says election integrity is not a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Let's unite and pass the Save America Act and ensure every American has a right to vote in free and fair elections. So he says the country has to come together. Senator Mike Lee takes it a step further, tying the push directly to the non-citizen registration numbers. He says 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote. It's more important than ever to crush foreign election interference. It's more important than ever to pass the Save America Act. So Lee's hammering urgency after those registration fixers. Next, John Solomon explains the part that should terrify every voter: how compromised registration files could let someone vote in your name.
Look at the National Intelligence Council assessment from January of 2020. There are 6 things it was assessed. This means all the intelligence community agrees together. 6 things they can do. They can vote in your name, and you would show up one day and you wouldn't be able to vote because they'll tell you someone else voted for you. They could register you in another location. You would never know that they voted for you in another location because they have all your data, everything they need to fill out a legitimate registration form. They could go and change something on your address, and when you showed up with your ballot or with your ID, like, oh, you're not that person, you're registered at another address. All of those things were imagined by our intelligence community. They warned about it. They called it the softest of vulnerabilities, the most severe vulnerabilities our system had. It gets hacked, and then they don't tell any of us. We get informed when our bank accounts are taken. Why shouldn't we get informed when our voter records are taken?
Great question there. He walked through the voter records, how they could be hijacked without you knowing. Trump follows it with another fight the media hates: the fraud risk tied to mass mail-in ballots.
And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which, if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned.
So that's the vulnerability argument on the mail ballots. Next comes a concrete case. declassified records tied to a major voter registration fraud operation in Muskegon and claims Biden's DOJ buried it. Rapid Response 47, the declassified records offer a window in a massive voter registration fraud operation in Muskegon, Michigan, and a years-long investigation that tracked as many as 10,000 suspicious or forged registration forms submitted in the weeks before the election. The Biden Justice Department slow-walked and eventually killed the case. So from the Michigan fraud case to the bigger reform push, the message is simple. Next, Trump boils it down, passed the Save America Act, posting it to Truth Social. Great reviews on the speech last night. Big audience, passed the Save America Act. Thank you, President Trump. So he says the speech landed, but the media response tells you everything. CNN caught admitting executives chose to censor the address.
He did the same thing as this network, CNN, last night. The newsrooms monitored the speech, evaluated what was actually newsworthy, looked at the documents Trump was declassifying, and then reported on what happened. NBC and ABC both went on the air with special reports to explain that the speech had happened and to summarize what Trump had said, but most importantly, to contextualize it and fact check it, just as CNN did. Now, Trump was ominously claiming that the networks were part of a plot, but the only real plot here, the only intention is to remain reality-based and truth-based. Trump's election lies led to violence after the 2020 election. So this is a subject that really does warrant extra care and attention by journalists. And frankly, some network executives felt that it would be dangerous to just air Trump's speech live, in full, unedited, without knowing what he was going to say ahead of time. That's where we are in America. And we have been here before. I remember during some of Trump's COVID-19 briefings in 2020.
Unbelievable. The gatekeepers caught admitting it all right there. Admitting it was about context, but it was actually a blackout. Real America's Voice argues the blackout backfired and drove Americans straight into the documents themselves.
Know what you think of this evidence, and especially the way that 3 major networks decided not to cover it.
It's bizarre, but the networks not covering it almost tells people that there was something important that was said last night. And people are like, okay, these left-wing mainstream media outlets are not giving any attention to what the president is saying. Maybe we should look into it. And, you know, the White House website crashed during the speech, after the speech. It's back up now. But I think millions of Americans are following up on what the president said, and, you know, we'll see for ourselves. I mean, it's not like the mainstream media has the power that it used to have, and the fact that they ducked out says more about them and what they're trying to cover up and suppress.
So the blackout may have fueled even more curiosity. Democrats are trying to smother it next. Gavin Newsom lashes out and calls Trump's address fantasy.
Well, the only thing missing tonight in Donald Trump's speech was tinfoil. This was a legitimate 25th Amendment moment, the ramblings of a mad king. Don't get me wrong, foreign interference in our elections, that's a real thing. Nothing about what you watched tonight, though, was real. It's make-believe. He wants to rig the election in 2026. He knows he's going to lose. He needs to rig the election before one vote was cast. That's what that whole thing was about tonight. This is a serious and profound moment where we can either fall prey to cynicism, fear, and anxiety, or we can step up and step in, mobilize, organize, not agonize, and turn out in record numbers this November and end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it. We can do that together.
Unbelievable. Gavin Newsom calling it a fantasy. But he mocks his speech while admitting that foreign interference is real. That opens the door to the next hit of hypocrisy. Adam Schiff warning in 2018 that voter systems were only one keystroke away.
Russian efforts are pervasive in terms of their social media campaign to divide us. That's going to continue to the election. We see that the Russians are again trying to spearfish and potentially hack election campaigns. The only element we have not seen to date, as Director Wray said, is the hacking of voter registration databases or voter equipment. But as our intelligence chief said, that's just one keystroke away.
Yes, Schiff's old warning sounds a lot different from his outrage now. He's not the only one. Now you'll see Kamala Harris once argued paper ballots were smarter because computers can be hacked.
We are talking with them about the fact that it is probably best that you do not have your election system connected to the internet, because that will create greater vulnerabilities. And then look at where we are now in this year of our Lord 2018. We're talking about paper ballots, but that actually might be one of the smartest systems. Going back.
So you once said paper can't be hacked like internet-connected systems. So when with Democrats suddenly pretending none of this is a threat, Marsha Blackburn hits the blunt answer. Pass the Save America Act. And the next reaction widens the target as critics torch CNN for panicking now that declassified intel on China and voting machine vulnerabilities are public. CNN melting down, Trump releasing new declassified intel on China's election interference and voting machine vulnerabilities, and the media is panicking.
As a president who has an approval rating stuck in the 30s and who faces what appears to be losses in the midterms, and we'll see, because an election's an election, people get to vote. He has made it his mission to cast doubt on that upcoming election, right? That's what all those things add up to. And damage may already have been done. Repeatedly saying that America's elections are rigged and broken and dirty has eroded confidence in the bedrock of American democracy. It has already done damage. Kevin Liptak is out front live outside the White House. And Kevin,
please spare me. You guys were screaming about election interference in 2016. Quote, some network executives felt it would be dangerous to air Trump's address live. That's what they said. Dangerous to whom, though? Donald Trump declassified the evidence, and CNN, MSNBC, Adam Schiff, and Mark Warner still ran cover for the same FBI culture that bragged about a shadow government while hiding China election intel from the president. That isn't journalism. That's an enforcement arm with studio lights. So pass the Save America Act, subpoena the FBI names, and dump every file. And that's where we go now, because Trump just kicked open a door the cartel spent years chaining shut. You heard the details. An FBI email bragging about a shadow government, declassified assessments saying Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and non-state actors can hit our election infrastructure, 10,000 suspicious forms in Muskegon, and nearly 250,000 non-citizens on voter rolls in just 4 states. So no, we do not let CNN, MSNBC, Adam Schiff, Mark Warner, or Gavin Newsom gaslight us back into silence. We hammer this everywhere. Share this video, drop your verdict in the comments, and force this story into every conversation, because the panic after Trump's speech is the confession. The lie cracked. Now patriots have to finish the job. And that shadow government story is exactly the kind of report YouTube buries. And our crew credentialed inside the White House is sending more straight from the building tonight. Text White House to 844-840-4963 and get the Insider channel delivered to your phone before the algorithm chokes it off.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.